Nearly 80 people associated with the Montgomery Adult Learning Center enjoyed the satisfaction of accomplishing 5 years of service to an increasing number of Montgomeryans. Mrs. Margaret Tucker is the Adult Basic Education Coordinator for this learning center, a center which has seen more and more adults attempt to get their high school education.
We started out in the Montgomery Public School systems with adults have a right to read, and the first number that we registered were 7. We now, this month, as opposed to 5 years ago, have registered 178 in 1 month. So you can tell how much the program has grown.
The group celebrated its birthday with a cake ceremony. There was more, a ribbon cutting opening up a room which is filled with both equipment and support from the Montgomery Altrusa Club. The program was a result of efforts in the early 70s to guarantee everyone the right to read. From there, instruction for GED testing was offered. There are 25 such centers operating in Alabama. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
I think that it's resulted in a choice of 3 menus rather than just having one universal menu. Also, they have had input into what they really like.
What does a menu consist of?
We have one menu that features fish as the entree, one that features pizza, which is one of the favorites, and chili. And then we have some choices of other foods that go along with the 3 entrees.
There were people on wheels of all sizes and shapes, from skateboards and bicycles to shopping carts and wheelbarrows, all circling the Eastdale Mall. More than 100 people participated in the annual Hike Bike Roll-a-thon, and the name describes the event to a T. The purpose behind the hours of walking and riding is to raise money for the Alabama chapter of the Association for Retarded Citizens. The 5,000 members help support more than 113,000 retarded Alabamians. The participants in the Hike Bike Roll-a-thon are sponsored for each lap they complete.
We're hoping to realize about $4,000 out of today's event, and with this money we'll expand our prevention campaign. This means that we'll be going into junior and senior high schools across the state with a presentation on how young people can begin to plan for the future and plan for a healthy baby.
If you're wondering the distance most participants trekked, it takes 20 laps by bicycle to equal 25 miles and just 10 laps by foot power to complete 12.5 miles. Paul Roth, WSFA TV News.
All right, how you doing today, Lynn?
Fine.
Good. You had any problems since you were here last time?
No.
All right. Your blood pressure looks good, and your weight gain's real good. Have you had any swelling?
A little bit.
A little bit in where?
In my feet.
In your feet? Okay, let's take a look at it. Is it mainly after you've been standing on them for a while? Okay. It's probably just because the baby's getting larger and putting a little extra pressure on your veins where your circulation's not quite as good. You can rest on your left side and that'll help that go down some, okay? Have you had any headaches?
A few.
A few. How often are you having those headaches?
Every now and then.
You don't see any spots before your eyes or anything like that when you have the headaches, do you?
No.
The health department recently opened a prenatal clinic in Montgomery for teenagers. It's open primarily to teenagers who are not being treated by private physicians. It provides specialized medical attention and educational services for teenage girls. The clinic was established when it was discovered that 1/3 of the patients attending the 3 weekly health department maternity clinics were in their teens.
Okay, the biggest problem that I see is overweight, and a lot of teenagers eat potato chips and candy and cookies and just a lot of junk foods. And they're mostly trying not to eat the right type of foods. They're trying to stay slim so that their classmates will not know that they are pregnant, and they're just really eating the wrong types of foods.
Okay, and so what kind of help are you giving them?
Okay, I try to modify their diet by making sure that they have the basic 4 food groups items, making sure they have the right amount of milk, protein foods, fruits and vegetables and breads that they need while they are pregnant.
The complications we see in particular for the teenagers is high blood pressure developing during pregnancy, anemia of pregnancy. These girls themselves are still growing, and they also have the baby that is growing, and this puts an increased nutritional demand on their bodies and sometimes results in anemia. There's also more incidence of premature births in this age group, and low birth weight babies are those babies weighing less than 5.5 pounds.
As a social worker, what sort of help do you provide?
We help to screen those who may be eligible for ADC and Medicaid so they can have financial assistance for delivery plans, and also work with them to fill in the void as far as vocational and educational plans and care of the child after the baby is born.
Ivy, we started this clinic on May the 3rd of this year, mainly because of the teenage pregnancy problem that we have in Montgomery. There, about 25% of all pregnancies are found in teenagers. And in Montgomery County, it's 1 out of 4 teenagers get pregnant. And here in our clinic, we found that 1 out of 3 teenagers get pregnant and come to our maternity clinic. We saw a need for this clinic because of this is a major public health problem in Alabama, and we wanted to try to meet the needs of the teenagers and improve the health care that they could get through having a maternity clinic just for teenagers.
The fact that so many teenagers, when they become pregnant, do not finish high school was another reason for our having this clinic, so that we might counsel them to continue their education after delivery of the baby.
How has the clinic been helpful to you?
When I first decided to come, I was scared, and then when I got used to everybody, you know, I'd like to come over here and stuff because they helped me with all my problems, and I didn't have any money to see an expensive doctor, so I enjoy coming over here now because the doctors and stuff are all nice to me.
The clinic is open from 8 a.m. to noon on Thursday at the County Health Department. After the first visit, expectant mothers are told to return once a month until they go into the 7th month. They're examined then twice a month until the 9th month, and then once a week until the baby is born.
I see why you're out practicing early, Hubert.
I thought you got to work on it some.
You've been fooling around with Paul Buman some, hitting that shot.
And Tall hits a little bit shorter than that, I'm afraid. Follows what he's doing.
You told me you were out early today. You not been playing well?
I have not. I've been playing very poorly, and the only way to get your game back in shape is a little blood, sweat, and tears. So I told my wife this morning, I said, I'll see you later. I got to go out there and try to get some peas and beans on the table for us this week.
Look, this Southern Open for us Alabama guys has kind of been you and Mac and Pate kind of leased the place. Why do you reckon the Alabama guys have played so well over here?
Well, I don't know about that. If we've just been lucky, I guess. Of course, Jerry's a pretty good player, and so is Mac, and none of the guys are on welfare right now. So you got guys that play pretty good throughout the years. Come down to a course that the field's not quite as strong as some other tournaments have, and we're on local ground on grass we've been brought up on, where some of the guys from the Midwest and the North and the West Coast aren't used to this kind of grass, so it gives us a little bit of an advantage. But we play a lot of golf on their advantage too, so it gives a little bit of a break.
I know those guys feel sorry for you, Hubert.
Well, I hope they do. It's I need a little respect, and send some countries in wherever you want to, and I'll take all I can get.
It's an honest book. It's a book that it could happen. And you go to New York, you buy the New York Daily News, you buy the Pensacola News Journal, you buy any Gannett newspaper, or in papers throughout the country. Now on the sports page, there is the betting line. and that isn't there for people to bet coffee and donuts in the office. There's a betting line each day on the teams, the pitchers, and so on and so forth. There is a tremendous amount of money bet annually in this country on sporting contests, and the minimum estimated by the FBI is $50 billion, and the estimates go as high as $250 billion. Also, I'd like to say that it's not a baseball book. It's a suspense story. It's a mystery story. A lot of women, really a lot of women who have no interest in baseball, and men as well who have no interest in baseball, have read this book and told me that they were carried through from the first page to the last page, that they had no interest in baseball, but nevertheless enjoyed this book very, very much. It's a suspense story. It's a mystery story about the FBI and the mafia working together to try to catch a criminal. In this case, the criminal happens to be a guy who's trying to fix the World Series.
How do you go about selecting and naming characters for a novel?
A lot of writers use the telephone book, but I use my friends' names. One of the lead characters in the book is Tom Jensen, a guy I grew up with, a guy I like very much and who was killed in an accident early in life. And so this is sort of my my tribute to this person, Tom Jensen. I name girls after girls that I've known. In fact, I've got a girl in there from Selma, Alabama. Her name is Linda. I'm not going to say what her last name is. And I make a joke in the book about Salad Selma. And this is a personal joke between this girl, Linda, and myself. And there are other characters. The names of the baseball players, every one of them is a guy that I grew up with and played ball with in high school. And I've used all their names as characters.
The start of each chapter in the book, you take something that is fact.
Right.
Why did you settle on something like this?
Well, that's the journalist in me. I wanted to prove to the reader that everything that happens in there actually could have happened, and I've done that by taking clips from newspapers, magazines, and so forth. That Reggie Jackson and Greg Nettles said in interviews that they get threats all the time in the World Series, and that Greg Nettles, the third baseman of the Yankees, said that he doesn't read his mail for 3 weeks before and after the series because of the threats. That's why I use these clips, because I'm a journalist and I back up my story with the facts.
I think it's interesting that you bring out there was something similar to this back in
1919.
Right.
Yeah, the famous White Sox scandal, the Black Sox scandal. And their gamblers bribed 8 players. And my idea is that that's dumb to try to bribe 8 players. All you need to fix a World Series is one man in one play in one game, and the deed is done. And that's what this book is all about.
Well, it's a political novel and be based on Alabama politics, and 2 characters. One that would be the 2 main characters would be based on people like a person like my uncle, who was governor of Alabama, and George Wallace, my former husband, who was governor of Alabama, and the struggle between these 2 men.
Tell us just maybe a couple of maybe just one page.
Well, the struggle, it would be based on historical facts, and it's leaning more now to me like a historical novel. And the basic struggle, as I see it, is, between this smaller man who's trying to topple the giant, and the things that they go through, and that's the meat of the whole plot.
Okay, a lot of people are interested. Are you bitter after the divorce?
Well, Norman, while I was working on the book, is the divorce is what I'm trying to, that part of my life I'd like to put behind me. And writing the book, as I found with the other book that I wrote, is very therapeutic for me, and purging my system and getting it all out of me and down on paper. It has a lot of therapeutic value for me, and if the book was never published, I would like to write it because I think it's healthy for me to do that. I get a lot of satisfaction from it. I even get kind of a kick out of it, seeing it come to life and creating it.
Well, what is it like now to be Mrs. George Wallace, ex-First Lady? You don't have the security and the trappings of the mansion and all of the things that come along with that title. You still have the same friends? Have you found some people to be have amnesia?
Well, Norman, all the time that I was First Lady of Alabama, and all my life I've tried to just remember who I am first, and just being Cornelia and what I believe in and things that I stand for, I carried with me through that time like I've always done. And I never felt that I changed inside at all, and I never felt that anything was really different. The superficial things were different. My time, there were a lot more demands on my time, so I was not able to do some of the things that I felt were important to me, like spending more time with my children and being there at times in their life when I thought it was important. But I felt that committing yourself to public service is a worthwhile endeavor, and I felt the time I spent in public service and involved in projects with the Cancer Society and mental health and all of the times that we had the mansion open for civic organizations and United Way, I felt that those were worthwhile. It cost me something personally in that I missed those times with my children, with my family life, but other than that, I never really looked at it as anything different. I just looked at it a time that I was spending that I had committed to public service and to other people's welfare and their interests first. And a lot of the superficial parts of it I didn't like. I did not like having to spend my time, with a big house and a lot of servants, although it was nice to live there. But that, too, took time away from my family. And so I've really enjoyed being, not having all of the emoluments that distract you from things in life that I think are more meaningful. And having this time for myself to spend with my mother. I neglected my mother the whole time that I was First Lady of Alabama, and I knew that I was doing that, and I didn't like doing that. And now I have this time to give to her, and I have more time to give to my children.
Okay, what's Cornelia Wallace doing professionally? I mean, what are you doing for money? Or do you have some gold coins stashed away someplace? Or?
No, I'm living off of my assets and some property that I acquired and investments that I made, and the book is the only thing that I have been involved in that would be profitable to me financially.
One more time, anything really interesting in the book about Alabama politics that you could give us a preview of?
Well, I hope every page of it will be interesting.
Today, the main concern was how to get the gasoline out of the sewer system. City and state work crews built this earthen dam on Audubon Ditch, part of the Catoma Creek system. As the gasoline floats on top of the water, a special vacuum device removes it into this 2,000-gallon tanker truck. The mixture sucked into the truck is 50% gasoline and 50% water. When the tank is full, the water is drained from the bottom, leaving the gasoline, and the process continues. The water from the ditch, after being cleaned as thoroughly as possible, flows out the other side of the dam. To quicken the process, the fire department is flushing the drainage system with a hose from the bypass in Norman Bridge Road. This minnow is the only evidence found so far of any fish dying from the gas spill. The salvaged gasoline will be shipped to a secure chemical waste landfill in Sumter County, and plans are to use it in a test incinerator there. Michael Jones, WSFA TV News.
Only 6 or 7 operators were picketing at a time in what they call an information picket, designed to let the public know what's happening to them. The picket lines were set up after South Central Bell announced it was moving its directory assistance operation in Mobile to the Montgomery office. Picketers say this will mean about 90 operators will lose their jobs. But here in Montgomery, South Central Bell spokesman Tom Somerville says the company will make every effort to relocate the operators.
There are about 55 operators down in Mobile who would no longer be needed there in that spot doing that job. And of course, we're going to do everything we can to try to place them in other jobs, place them in other parts of the state. We're going to try to minimize the impact on them. Some of them are eligible for retirement right now, and we have a supplementary income provision that we can offer them to accommodate for not getting Social Security up until the time when they're eligible for it.
Somerville says the operational transfer is part of a large consolidation effort to cut costs.
The intercept operation, which of course is what happens when you call a number that's been disconnected or has been changed, that is going to be consolidated in Nashville, Tennessee for the state of Alabama and the state of Tennessee. Right now, our directory assistance people work on both the directory assistance and the intercept jobs. Another change coming about is a conversion to a computerized system of directory assistance search. In other words, instead of using the books, the paper records, the directory assistance operators will now have display terminals on their positions, and they will call up the listings from a computer rather than have to look for them.
Somerville says the move to Montgomery should be finished by the 1st of July, 1980. Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News.
Authorities have succeeded in righting the tanker that was filled with gasoline and moving it out of the intersection. Now the heavy machinery is in place, removing the temporary sand dike that they used to channel the gasoline mixed with fire-retardant foam into the nearby storm sewers. The accident occurred about 8:30 this morning as many Montgomeryans were on their way to work. The tanker, filled with 9,100 gallons of gasoline, was reportedly traveling east on the southern bypass as the Alto was attempting a left turn onto the bypass from Norman Bridge Road. According to witnesses, the truck driver worked to avoid hitting the Alto and in the process hit the medium and lost control. The tanker came to rest on its side, completely blocking the eastbound lanes. The gasoline began pouring from the tanker. Several units of the Montgomery Fire Department arrived on the scene minutes later and began washing the gas into the storm drains. The potential for disaster was great. Soon police had traffic stopped and rerouted as firemen worked to keep the gasoline from igniting. A special fire-retardant foam was brought in to keep the air away from the gasoline. Soon, trucks from Maxwell Air Force Base were on the scene with still more foam. Another tanker was brought in to pump the remaining gasoline out. The mixture of gasoline, water, and foam was channeled into the storm system. Downstream of the storm systems, businesses and residents were asked to close up and evacuate. Nearby Harrison Elementary School was cleared out, and several hundred students were taken to the end of the property and sat down. Fire officials say it will take most of the day to complete cleaning up after the accident. No doubt it will take police longer just to determine what happened. In any case, all are glad that the incident did not turn into a disaster. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News. The contents of the brief were discussed with Federal Judge Frank Johnson, Jr. According to the document, the greatest number of deficiencies were found at Bryce Hospital in Tuscaloosa. State officials did say improvements have been made in reducing patient population. State Attorney General Charles Graddock says in addition to the discussion of compliance with the 1972 court order, the state also offered some plans.
We filed set forth our position in regards to the case and really set forth two proposals to the court. One proposal being that Judge Johnson allowed the board, Glen Allen, and the state of Alabama, the governor, to present a short-term and long-term plan within 90 days and then be given at least a year to implement that plan. Now, if the court didn't see fit to grant that particular proposal, then we asked the court if they were so inclined to appoint a receiver to give us the opportunity to nominate someone for that particular position.
At the same time the brief was discussed, the state produced a petition asking the court to name Governor Fob James temporary receiver of the mental health system for a period of not less than 1 year. As receiver, the governor would be in total control of the system. While Judge Johnson did not decide on the state's proposals, he did give the plaintiffs in the case until Monday to recommend their choice for receiver of the mental health system. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
Fair organizers think more than 43,000 children will have attended the fair by day's end. So why aren't these children in school? They got the day off just to have fun. For some children, fun meant eating foods which aren't allowed on most days. For others, the day held more than the usual ups and downs. and still other children enjoyed making new friends. While most youngsters looked forward to playing games and winning prizes, others looked at the fair as just another working day. With so many things to do, some school children may have been pleasantly confused, but others knew exactly where to find their fun.
Ride the roller coaster. If you ride the ride, you can't win nothing. I like to win stuff.
The bumper cars.
Why?
I like the way to bump into other people.
You can buy a whole bunch of things. Like what? Well, you can buy the fish and a whole bunch of stuffed animals, and you can buy cotton candy and a lot of other things.
Roller coasters.
Why?
Because it's fun and it goes around and around.
The jumping bag. What does it do?
You can't hardly stand up in it. You bounce up and down.
Though each child may have a different preference, most would agree on one fact: having fun is tiring work. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News. Sherborne attended a reception co-sponsored by the National Conference of Christians and Jews and the Alabama Council to Save Soviet Jews. He's completing a whirlwind speaking tour of the U.S., trying to get help for Russian immigrants such as this one, who had to give up his job and wait 1 year before his application to emigrate was approved. Sherborne says the Soviets are sensitive to public opinion from the West.
I've been very happy in my visit here to Alabama. There are many more people aware of what's going on than I had hoped, and I'm particularly pleased at the cooperation between Christians and Jews. This I find very, very pleasing, because in many parts of the country, in many parts of England as well, not sufficient number of Christians are coming forward to help in the struggle, which is a Christian struggle as well.
Sherborne helps get letters from outside the Soviet Union to Soviets who've been cut off by their government. He returns to England later this week. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
Give them more notice. He wrote the city of Montgomery that Mr. Walpole is one of the developers here, but Mr. Copeland really intervened, has tried to make some way to get this water in here, across here. Now, the basis of sound engineering principle, and that's the basis of the request for condemnation. Channel improvement. Therein lies the problem. The two parties cannot get together. So we, the city, as a city, must develop. It has to be taken into consideration, because in the past, what we have done.
Around 8:30 this morning, a gasoline tanker and an automobile collided here at the intersection of the Southern Bypass and Norman Bridge Road. The accident occurred as many Montgomeryans were on their way to work. Over 9,500 gallons of gasoline began pouring from the overturned tanker, posing an immediate danger of explosion. Within minutes, fire and police units arrived. Traffic was rerouted as authorities began the dangerous task of containing the leaking fuel. A special fire retardant foam was brought in and sprayed on the tanker to keep air away from the gas vapor. Firemen also sprayed water so that the mixture of gasoline, foam, and water would drain into storm sewers. As a precaution, nearby residents and businesses were evacuated. The Harrison Elementary School, located about 400 yards from the accident scene, was also evacuated. Another gasoline tanker arrived, and the remaining fuel from the overturned tanker was transferred into it. Authorities then worked to turn the tanker upright. Several foam trucks from Maxwell Air Force Base assisted as the tanker was righted and moved out of the way. Traffic flow was restored after noon. Police say the cause of the accident is still under investigation. The driver of the truck, Earl Falk, says he had the green light. The driver of the automobile, Ken Tingle, says he had the light. Police say they don't know, and they're asking anyone who might have witnessed the accident to call the Montgomery Police Department. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
10 years ago, the Alabama legislature passed an act allowing Pike County to elect its commissioners at large rather than by individual districts. But any change that affects voting in the election process must be approved by the U.S. Attorney General's office. The Pike County Attorney says the county submitted the new process for review and complied with the Attorney General's requirements. But the decision handed down in Montgomery says the Attorney General's office had an objection to the election process. The objection stated that the Justice Department could not be sure the new method of electing commissioners wasn't racially discriminatory. Because Pike County held elections under the new process without satisfying the U.S. Attorney General's objection, the Justice Department filed suit. The decision, signed by 3 federal judges, says the county didn't get clearance before going through with the elections. Probate Judge Ben Reeves says he's not surprised by the decision, and the county attorney says he hasn't yet decided whether to appeal it. If the county doesn't appeal, they must hold another general election before February, when the commissioners' terms are declared invalid. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News, Troy.
Well, I think Alabama.
Why?
I really think it's just my hometown. You know, I'm just going for Alabama.
Oh.
Alabama.
You think so?
Sure. Alabama.
Texas normally wins.
So you're for Texas, huh?
I think they'll win, yeah.
You feel like you're in the minority around here?
Slightly.
Yeah. Gotta be number one. They gotta
Why?
be because
Why?
they beat Florida in Florida 40-0, and Stanford tied USC.
Right, but Texas beat Oklahoma on national television.
That's true. That's true. Texas, I believe, will probably be number 2.
Huh?
Alabama.
You say Texas, man? Come on up here. We need a dissenting vote here. Why Texas?
Fan.
You're a Texas fan?
Yeah.
Alabama.
Why?
Well, they've won all their games by large margin, and they've showed that they're tough.
Well, it couldn't be anybody but Alabama.
Why is that?
Well, first of all, our hometown boy Byron Braggs is playing for Alabama. And
good point.
Second of all, they are the #1 team.
That's the best team in the nation.
Alabama. Okay, thank you.
My husband's not going to like that.
Oh, he's not? He's
No.
an Auburn fan?
Yes, he is, very much so.
Alabama.
How you know?
Well, they got the personnel it takes to be #1.
Yeah?
Yeah, they got the coaching
But they
that it
gotta
takes.
get the votes, though.
Oh, they'll get them.
About time you ask an expert.
About who's going to be #1?
Right on.
Before we get run over here, who do you think is going to be #1?
Alabama, they're supposed to be #1. They're undefeated and they're untied, and nobody else can say that.
Yeah, but Texas is undefeated and untied, and they beat Oklahoma, #3 team in the country.
Well, see, they won't be that way all the time. See,
I see.
Texas
Alabama's
will
gonna be that
fall, and Alabama's going to go all the way.
Oh, why do you think Texas is going to be #1?
Because I don't think Alabama plays good enough people to be rated #1.
You think they've played a weak schedule?
Yes, sir.
Is that orange shirt you have on burnt orange? Does that mean you're an Auburn fan?
No, I just think that Alabama plays a weak schedule and that Texas will probably be #1 in the football play.
Thank you. Well, who do you think? Auburn? Auburn's going to be #1?
The order is Deaver, Trapp, Graham, and Lamory.
Well, Freddie Smith is a member of our football team, like he has been. We feel like that we have to make decisions and face situations as they come up, and each individual is, treated on the same basis. And this was something that occurred during the summer. We talked and dealt with that at that particular time within our own framework of discipline. And had I thought it, in my opinion, and I guess I'm entitled to my opinion, a serious thing, and then he would have been suspended. But we didn't feel that at this particular time.
I think really they tried to embarrass us. They had the game kind of wrapped up, and I think the last play of the game they ran reverse, scored another touchdown. And it's kind of like rubbing salt in the wound. So,
what type of defense, from what you've seen, are they quick and good pursuit team?
Yeah, they're quick. They gang tackle. They got a lot of speed on defense. I would say they had rank around with Tennessee as far as quickness.
Does that mean you're going to have to go inside at them?
I think we can run the ball straight at them because they're not that strong. They're not that physical. I think we can run right at them.
The council is going to be attacking problems on several fronts. Discipline is one of the biggest dilemmas parents face with children. Every public opinion poll asking parents about problems lists discipline as the #1 area of concern. The council is surveying teachers for information on discipline, and results will come out in November. A major program underway is aimed at cutting down the use of marijuana by young people and children. President Joanne Shum says that the council is working with parents and will be working with children, giving them new statistics about the use of marijuana.
Some of the research has shown, for example, that it causes permanent brain damage after several years of heavy use, that it causes short-term memory loss, that the chemical which gives you the high is stored in the body in the fatty tissues such as the brain and the reproductive organs, much in the manner of DDT, which is a very dangerous chemical also. So this is building up and having a cumulative effect on the child's body, and we want to get this information across.
60% of Montgomery County school children come from single-parent homes. The council will sponsor an open meeting October 23rd on the single-parent family and a citywide seminar March 5th. A fourth program is directed at making special provision for the gifted child. This Saturday on Alabama Illustrated, we'll take a look in depth at one of these programs, the use of marijuana by Montgomery's young people and children. This is Ivy Berman, WSFA TV News.
Protests against high fuel cost and high oil company profits were held around the nation today. This group of senior citizens marched in Washington, D.C. In Tuskegee, Mayor Johnny Ford took part in the effort, as did other members of the National Conference of Black Mayors. The protesters, uniting under the title of the Citizens Energy Program, are asking for three things: price controls on domestic crude oil, heating oil, and natural gas, a special prosecutor to investigate alleged excess charges and to force the oil companies to work at full capacity, and a taxpayers' energy cooperation to promote exploration and production of oil and gas from public lands. Mayor Ford admits that some people will balk at the idea of more government intervention in private business, but he says it's needed.
I think it's the responsibility of the federal government to get involved, not drive them out of business, but just give them some competition so that they'll stay honest and make sure that they do what they're supposed to do to make prices reasonable in this country.
This is the future site of the Wallace & Wallace Oil Company in Tuskegee. Mayor Ford says that governmental red tape must be cut so that independents like Wallace & Wallace can compete with the larger oil companies. And that competition, he says, is what's needed to help at least stabilize the rising cost of fuel. Michael Jones, WSFA TV News, Tuskegee.
Many band members went on strike several weeks ago, protesting what they called racial discrimination by an assistant band leader. Some freshmen had also claimed they were beaten and intimidated as part of an informal hazing process. ASU President Levi Watkins said band members must follow proper grievance procedures or he'd get a new band. Though the university has made no official statement, the band is back on the practice field. And band director Tom Lyle says he's spoken with every member, making it clear there will be no more hazing or initiation practices. He would not say how the resumption of practice came about or what has happened to the original complaints. But Lyle says the band will be ready to perform at the ASU football game in 2 weeks, if not this weekend. He also says he wants it clear that the marching band is a musical organization, not a social one. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.